Welcome to Momentum Mode. My name is Mike Shannon, and in this episode, I'll be joined by my co-host Corey Farringle as we welcome Tim Huelskamp, founder of 1440, one of the fastest growing media brands in the country. They have over 4.5 million people, including myself, who go to 1440 for a curated list of some of the most intellectually strong and curious articles curated by some of the best minds in the country. Now, we'll cover everything from bootstrapping to treating employees like royalty. But before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsor, Kilpatrick, Townsend & Stockton, an innovation-focused law firm that both Corey and I have worked with for over a decade. I'd also like to recognize Improve, AI for financial advisors, that I've co-founded over the past couple of years, and Aperium Ventures, Corey's venture capital firm. We'll dive in here and let's get in. Welcome back to Momentum Mode. I'm Mike,
Corey,
and we've got Tim Huelskamp here, founder, CEO of 1440, which is fast becoming one of the emerging media brands in the US. And Tim will tell us all about that and some of the mechanics behind it. But let me lay it up with what I find to be, such an interesting part of your story of private equity executive leaves the lucrative world of private equity, launches a curiosity-focused newsletter with a scientist, right? Okay, well, that'll never work. Fast forward, over 4 million people, including myself, rely on 1440 for probably the most interesting curated set of unbiased news in my inbox every day. And the economics and the growth metrics behind it are a really fascinating story from a business case study. So we're going to unpack all of that. But Tim, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, super honored to be with you. And also thanks for the commercial we just shot for 14.
Yeah, there we go. As I say, wow.
Well, so let's get into that.
He's clearly a fan.
I love the origin story. I mean, who leaves PE to say, hey, scientist friend, I don't know your co-founder. Let's get interesting things together and kick a newsletter out, and maybe it'll become, a highly successful business. Tell us the story.
Yeah, sure. So I was working at a private equity fund for about a decade. Actually, the first stint was more kind of like late stage venture, early stage buyouts. And then I worked on like operations team where we'd go into the companies and actually fix them up.
Sure.
So actually I had a great experience there. Two very different, like one is like where the puck's going and one's like going on the ground, almost like an internal consultant and fixing up the company. So did that for about a decade after investment banking at a college. And, learned a ton, got to sit on a bunch of boards, saw how value is created, saw how teams are built, saw how management is like literally the most important thing. I feel like I always hear about that in business school, or I didn't go to business school, but like in business classes, it's always the team and management. And like we saw that firsthand. We would go into these companies in rural Alabama that had wonderful products.
Yeah.
Dictatorial CEO, didn't like all these awesome employees, and they just would always like keep them down. And
any industry or so.
So when I was on the operations team, it was more like industrial stuff. So basically this was like a plumbing supply company down in Moody, Alabama, it's called. The Gents. And that was a great example. Like the CEO was like super dictatorial. One of the big things I learned there was B players hire C players, and then the A players hire A plus players. And we saw that firsthand. Like he basically, hopefully he's not listening to this, but he was just surrounding himself with people that yes men, right? Yes men. And like you go to the organization, it was amazing. You would see like just no one was talking, no one was coming up with new ideas, no one didn't want to be there. And then we would bring in like our new CEO team and management team, and we kind of had like a drop-in CEO, and then we'd have various experts, and we would basically like run our playbook. You'd come back 6 months later, everyone the same 300 employees with one new leader, and it's like everyone's rowing in the same direction, everyone's on the same team, the revenues are up, their idea pipeline is awesome. So it's just kind of getting rambly here, but
so you got your business MBA from the private equity.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so you're buying plumbing services type companies in rural Alabama. When does the light bulb go off that my scientist friend and I are going to want the newsletter? How do you get from that to that?
Yeah, so actually like a large...
What's his name? He keeps saying you signed your
scientist friend.
What's his name? I said it's scientist. My co-founder's Drew. His name's Drew. He's a PhD scientist that lives in Capitol Hill. He used to work for like senators and congressmen and mostly distill really sophisticated science documents down for folks on Capitol Hill. So he's a brilliant guy.
He prefers Drew the scientist. I'm sorry.
Dr. Drew. Yeah. So we got acquired by a larger private equity fund called Ares.
Okay.
And they're basically like, you can stick around, but it might not look very good for you, or,
So a crossroads moment occurred.
Yeah, exactly. So at the time I was 32, been on a bunch of boards, been private equity for 10 years, basically wasn't married, had no kids. They gave me a pretty nice exit package, and I'd always been very entrepreneurial. So I was like, had a CD burning business in high school that made me out of and so it's up, right? And like I was selling pot at my driveway of my parents' house when I was like 7 years old. So I was always doing like entrepreneur things.
All right, 3 songs that were on your best Bird 2 song.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wait, I seen the mail CD. Wait, the mix CD?
He was a business. He did it all.
I mean, Tupac, Life Goes On. And then it was probably like Dave Matthews Band. That's the.
Oh, yeah. Look,
That's a street.
entry into marching.
I'll marker it up, title on it, goes right into the CD.
Yeah, exactly. You get a piece of paper. It was $10. Make it circle 15 songs.
All right, so you had a Bird CD empire.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
His next business was what?
Yeah. Just doing a bunch of little things like throughout the years. And then like when I was in PA, I was always doing angel investing. So I was trying to figure out something to do on the side. So I like loved the art of building. And basically at the time I was like, all right, 32, they're literally paying you to start a company.
Yeah.
Essentially. And if you don't do it now, kind of like, screw you. Like, when are you going to do it? So it's like, here's like the universe telling you to start a company. So I actually did another one first.
Oh, okay.
Which was it was a travel company called When in Rome. And basically the concept was we wanted to connect the traveler with local experts. So we actually partnered with, I think like concierges at the Four Seasons and the Rokas all across the United States. We had about 100 concierges in about all the NFL cities, as we said, like the 30 biggest cities. And we would connect the traveler to those folks and provide like a bespoke experience.
Yeah.
Did that for about a year. And what I quickly realized was, all right, so this is how I think about startups. There are 3 things at their core. It's the search for product market fit, right? Do you like getting something people want? Then the next one that I think most founders don't realize until they get past the search for product market fit is, can you scale the company with capital, right? You know, they're scalable, profitable, unit economics, essentially. I love talking about unit economics. Like actually someone calls me the unit economics guy. So we have to go in there. But yeah, so like, right, you have to be able to like basically get $1 and then turn into 3. Like usually capitalists are looking at like a 3-to-1 unit economics ratio. So with When in Rome, like we built a product. It was wonderful for me because I learned how to like build a product, work with developers, actually launch something. We got to like, I think it was doing like $1,000 in revenue a month. But what we learned quickly was the unit economics were completely upside down. Okay. So we would charge $30 for an itinerary. We would split it with the concierge. They loved it because they were just doing this on the side. It was like Uber X for that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So they loved it. And then we would make, $12 after all the Stripe fees, but our customer acquisition costs were like $200.
Oh.
So if you think about it, right, like if you do,
how many trips are they going to play? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So the lifetime value is so low, right? So basically you do 1 trip a year. If you're a sales guy, maybe you do a couple more than that.
Right.
Like the average customer is doing 1 trip a year. And then if you think about like, things to do in Seattle, like, Hertz wants that customer, United wants that customer, all the Marriott wants that customer. So like they're spending much more on customer acquisition and they can because of the margin,
right?
Where we're like trying to get a return on $12.
Right.
And it was like very upside down. So the blessing there.
And by the way, just for those that understand, that's the competing with all of them in the searching. So you're having to pay a lot more for marketing because you're competing.
Correct.
The marketing dollars. So not sure everybody. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like a cost per click on Google might be like $7 in that world.
Right.
And you have to like get a return on, like you'd have to have every customer sign up for it. Right. It's usually like 1% of customers.
Right.
For that.
I tried to be a $3 per day e-textbook rental company once. It's 22. I understand. Flip to that economics is true.
So yes, I remember.
So, but the blessing there was for me as like on a personal level is I had to go through every marketing channel to figure out like, does anything work? Right. So like in that second stage, right. So we had product market fit and then how do you scale it? So we did, referral, SEO, Google, Facebook.
Yeah.
We tried to like white label at hotels, like go into hotels and be like, hey, we'll be your white labeled concierge. You don't have one. Didn't work that. So literally for like 9 months, I had to go down all the marketing channels. There's like 25 ways to acquire customers ish. And literally everyone failed. Yeah. So basically like the writing was on the wall and I was like, this thing.
What also means is you really loved the product though. Right.
At the time. Yeah. It was a personal thing for
right. That's a lot of time people are like, but I want this to work. Man, you find me, at least you came to the point where you're like, all right, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's too many people who are smart.
Exactly. I think that was smart. We were like, this isn't going to scale. And the writing's on the wall.
How much capital had you put in roughly?
Just personal. It was like 100K or something. Yeah, but it's real money.
Real money. Yeah.
But like we could tell that it wasn't gonna take off. So,
yeah.
So second idea comes.
So I'm looking around at this point.
Where does Drew?
Yeah, where's Drew science? Drew flies in and Angel Wings. So yeah, we basically at the time we were looking at the newsletter industry, and this was like basically before it was like Morning Brew and the Skim and the Hustle, which they've all sold now. We're just starting. Even like Axios, which is AF for 500 million, wasn't even around yet. So it was kind of like early days. And one of the things I was really captivated by was just like the unit economics of those businesses are incredible. Like if you can find white space and you deliver for your customers, it's actually the opposite. So like you have a really rich unit economics. And I had seen some of the founders of these newsletter businesses talk about that. And I was like, wow, it's really cool. Like if you can find a white space and deliver on it.
Just because the cost of producing and distributing newsletters is so low?
Yeah, that's one of the main.
Okay.
The main. Yeah, that and like just the way that the retention rate is everything. So today there's so many newsletters, and a lot of them don't make it. But the way to basically make money in this space is essentially, so we make about a nickel every time someone opens our email. So if there's a CPM and all that, and it's $100,000 a day to buy ads in 1440, but when you break it down, it's like a nickel an open.
Got it.
So basically, we can go out and acquire a customer for like $2 or $3. We do that on Facebook and Google and Reddit and all these different places. But then every day they open, we get a nickel back.
Okay.
Oh, did I just say nickel back?
Remind me.
That was the third song.
That was the third song.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Back to the bird. I think that was coming.
The revival is here. They're cool again.
Yeah. So like the way it works is you make a nickel a day. So if you're paying $2 or $3 to acquire a subscriber and they only open for 3 days, like you're going on a business very quickly.
Yeah.
So you really have to deliver like a wonderful product every day that people love.
Yeah.
And if you do that and they open it every day, then your unit economics look really good.
Yeah.
So for us, like, we send out 25 emails a month about, we have a 65% daily open rate, which is like the highest.
That's insane.
Thank you. Yeah. It's the highest in the space. We pour our hearts and soul into the product every day.
Yeah.
And just like look for all the best information. And 65% open rate. So like 15 times a month, the average person's opening, and we're making like a nickel.
Yeah.
So every month, we're making like 70 cents off a engaged user. So after a few months, you get the payback.
Yeah.
And then what we've done since the beginning was just run that little flywheel all over and over. Yeah.
Right.
So what kind of numbers are we talking here? Like,
So
just to know the lay of the land today, and then we'll go to origin.
Yeah, so we have 4.5 million subscribers. We do we do over $1 million in revenue per employee, and we have 22 employees. We don't do over 2 million in revenue per
Right. Got it. As our new range.
and then it's about 100,000.
That, by the way, is incredible. I mean, when we first met, I told you, I got to about the same revenue level at over 100 employees, right? I mean, everybody's out here trying to figure out a cash flow positive business, and to be at over $1 million per employee just gives you all kinds of levers on growth, right? Imagine, right? So you didn't start at 4 million subscribers, giving you that nickel back every day. So what was the initial list? What was the content? We've been doing this all day. Yeah, how do you get to, so not even 4 million, but how do you get to 100 people wanting to open your email?
Yeah, so I mean, we really admired that flywheel business model from early on, and we wanted to lean into that. So if you break down what we do really well, we write a wonderful newsletter. As I said, it has a 65% open rate. There's 4.5 million people reading it. There are a lot of doctor, banker, and lawyer, consultants, smart people that are intellectually curious and want to learn a lot of things. Then we sell advertisements against that list because that's the audience. They tend to be very affluent, and they like to be, as we say, healthy, wealthy, and wise. So they love learning about new financial services products, new better for you, like vitamins. And
you're saving them time too by sifting through the noise that's out there, right? That's what the doctor wants from you.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I think when you really break down what our product does, so I think when we started this thing, the whole thesis was media by design is very niche or verticalized, right? So you have sports and politics and culture and technology and local and all this.
And then garbage across all. I mean, truly, yes. You're getting above the garbage.
That's what we're trying. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And then also like the comprehensive view. So basically you have all these things. If you're a doctor with 3 kids at home and you want to know everything, like you got to go to 20 different sources. Can someone pull together in like an inch deep, mile wide sort of way? So that's what we wanted to be, like the comprehensive layer in like a world of niche. And then the second point was basically we were sick of all the left versus right, opinions, bias. Like obviously opinion pieces are wonderful. We just don't think it should be in everything you read. So we basically said, like, we just want to learn, like, show us the facts, let us come to our own conclusions. And basically we felt like everything we were reading had like the opposite in that. So like who's the folks that view like the comprehensive fact first approach? We couldn't find it. So we just launched ourselves. We sent it out to 78 friends and family, unsure if anyone would care.
And this is you and Drew sitting down and finding the best articles.
Exactly. Yeah. So me and Drew talked about the thesis. He had the same pain point. And we basically said, like, let's build it tomorrow. I was like really proud of Drew. He's actually not from the startup world, but he's like, let's just write it tomorrow. So we actually like thought through what the thing should look like. If you look at our original one we sent out to 78 friends and family, it's about 85%, 90% similar to what we have today. So like obviously like we designed it and it's like there's been some tweaks because we took so much iterative feedback in the first couple quarters, but it's basically the same. You can see the same like DNA.
Yeah.
So like it was like we want this thing. It doesn't exist. We both want it. Let's go build that thing. And that's what we did. And we sent it out to 78 friends and family.
With low cost to build.
It was on MailChimp and it's free for the first 10,000 subscribers back then. I think it might be still. So we literally had zero costs.
And you were both sifting through the internet. Bird CDs are playing in the background, finding good articles, and then you email it. That's you're basically zero startup costs.
Correct. Yes, exactly. To get it out. Exactly.
But I think one of the key things you're talking about, so we talk unit economics on the customer acquisition, but you're also talking about unit economics on the incremental revenue. So in other words, to service a new customer doesn't cost you an extensive amount, right? Which is, I think some companies make that mistake too, is it's like, oh, great, we got our acquisition cost, so here's the lifetime payback. Yeah, but what happens when you add the next customer? What does it cost to actually service them? So it's not purely cost against acquisition. It's also lifetime servicing. So I'm assuming your incremental cost for each new customer is negligible.
Near zero.
Near zero. Yeah.
So it's like, you guys, like go back to write the newsletter, sell ads, and then grow the audience.
Yeah.
And both of these are, like you could just add zeros to those. Yeah. And like, that's what we've done is like, we spend about $1 million a month on customer acquisition now.
Yeah.
We used to spend, a couple $1,000s a month and you just keep adding zeros to it.
Yeah.
And it scales very, very nicely to your point.
Yeah.
You gave yourself some degree of a scoreboard, I thought, of whether you knew if it was working or not.
Yeah.
What were those numbers?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the newsletter industry, there's so much benchmark data, so you can see how you're doing. So at the time, we basically said, if we don't have a 40% open rate and a 5% weekly organic growth rate, which I believe is from Y Combinator, that 5% growth, we said like, this probably isn't worth it.
Yep.
So we shipped out the 78 friends and family email. It was like literally our groomsmen and aunts and uncles and friends and stuff like that. And we basically said, before we sent it out, we said like, hey, we're working on this thing. We're gonna send it out later this week. We'd love for you to just like read it.
Yeah.
Right? Not like, we didn't want to ask them. We didn't want to make like a true experiment. And then people gave us a bunch of feedback. But then what was crazy is, so that was on a Wednesday or whatever, because we were doing it once a week. The next Wednesday we wrote the next one, we had 91 on the list. So we could see it like slowly working. And then I think the third send we had, I believe it was 104. So you could see it like slowly growing. And our open rate back then was the same thing, 65%. So it's like, okay, we have some very early evidence of the market fit here. We have like people like the product, they're opening it and they're also forwarding it to friends. Like that's really good signal.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things like, we should keep going with this.
So let's change gears a little bit on teams. You have 22 people.
Yep.
When did you know it time to start bringing people in?
Yep.
And like, what do you look for in those first employees?
Yeah. So we kept the thing very, very lean and mean for a long time, just because we wanted to let the flywheel spin.
Yeah.
And then be profitable and like basically control our own destiny.
Any temptation for venture capital? Or
so we we did raise some money, but it was like non-dilutive revenue. Actually, I always say, if you watch Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful does those royalty-based deals.
Yes.
We basically did a version of that.
Right. Come on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. How could I forget?
For those of you who don't know, Mike was on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
But he was there. Video's out there.
So yeah, we raised a little bit of money and it was basically like, we raised $500,000. And then it was a year later, we had to start paying back 5% of our revenues until they got 3x their capital. And they got a very small equity kicker too, in case like for schmuck insurance, in case we sure like they're not.
What's really funny is schmuck insurance is kind of a technical term because I've heard it in many deals. All right, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we used that to like basically, when we raised that, I think we had 50,000 subscribers and maybe we're doing, I should know these numbers, 5 to 10,000 in revenue, but you could see our unit economics working, right? So we've been around for a year. Yep. You could see that we acquired cohorts back a year ago and 55% of them, or whatever it was, were still around. You could see that we could monetize it. And then also what we did was I was dribbling in capital to prove out that we could grow the list as well. So like going back to write it, sell it, and then grow it. Yep. We were also like, can we acquire new subscribers on Facebook? Yep. So we were doing that as well and adding a couple thousand subscribers from Facebook for like, I think $1 at the time. Yep. We had them less than that. So like if you break that down, there's like early evidence of like a viable business here. Again, like those three things and really rich unit economics. I think at the time it was 10 to 1 or 11 to 1 or something like that. And we knew that the CPA cost per acquisition would go up. But even with that, it's like, even if it triples, you're still in that like 3 or 4x range.
Yeah, the benchmark we would hear as founders from VCs and say 3 to 5x LTV to CAC, lifetime value to what you're spending to acquire. Yep. So if you're 10 and 11, I mean, you're blowing that through water.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. But we knew like that, like they might get down. But if you're starting at 3, like, and then your cost triples,
so we're geeking on these costs. Let's move into the PU. You took you back there. So people, it's time to bring people.
Yeah. So we kept it lean and mean. I think we got to 10 million in revenue with 3 or 4 employees.
Yep.
Like by design, because we wanted to have like the profitability to throw around. And then then it's like, okay, so we've proven this thing out. People like it. Now we need to build a team around it.
Yeah.
So I think I think about this every day. I really mean this. Every day I wake up and I'm like, how do I make this the best place in the world to work?
Yep.
How do I make sure we're like keeping our employees very happy? Because like at the end, it's like the talent wars, right?
Yeah.
Like make sure you can hire the best talent. So we started basically like we took those 3 parts of the business, and then we went out and found like wonderful people to be like the second in command and actually take it over. So as one of our first hires was, her name's Sony. She's actually here in Chicago. She's our editor in chief now at the Note. She was at Bloomberg for a long time. She's absolutely brilliant. So Drew and her worked together, and then eventually Sony became editor in chief.
Yep.
And then we started adding head of growth, and then head of sales, and just like kept on slowly building the team out.
What'd you look for in a person?
Yeah, I look for 3 things. Cultural fit. So like, are we all, you could be from all different walks of life, but like, do we see the world the same way? And are you fun to hang out with? And do we like, there's some people just don't vibe with, or, like, or do you see things the same? Everyone on our team, we do these offsites. So like twice a year, everyone likes to travel, and like, they're all curious. They love to see the world. So like, we're very like
a curiosity newsletter.
Yeah, but it's not, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think like the cultural fit. The second one, which I sometimes get in trouble for, but it's like horsepower. Like, I asked my team, like, if you meet someone and you don't think they're brilliant, just move on. Like, I just want intellectually, like, just real horsepower in people.
Yeah.
I've never gone wrong by hiring someone brilliant. I think sometimes you have to worry about like their egos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just, are they smart? And everyone on our team, I think also, not only are they really smart, they, because we're culturally aligned, like we're all kind of like, we're kind and smart.
Yeah.
So look for that. And then the third one is like, do you love the work? So Sony, our editor in chief, loves writing. Our growth person, Erica, she's up in Milwaukee. She's absolutely incredible. She loves and geeks out on like Facebook ads and how to like talk to the customer to, all these stuff, right? I actually get in front of she absolutely loves that. You can see the passion when she's doing it. So I think like those are the 3 things. It's like, do you love the work? And obviously, like, you're not going to love everything.
It's that job. Yeah.
But like generally speaking, like our salespeople love making relationships with people.
Yeah.
Our writers love writing and curating information. So it's like, do you love the work? Is it a good cultural fit? And are you brilliant?
Yeah.
Those are 3 things I'm looking for.
And how do you interview for love the work?
Yeah. This one's tough, or not tough. I think so. In private equity, we had this strategy where basically like when we hired a new CEO or a C-level executive, one of the best things we would do is we would do a mock board meeting. So essentially what we do is like, this is a very final round. Yeah. And basically say 3 weeks from now, we're going to have a 3-hour meeting, and you're going to present to us a mock board deck of your 90-day plan.
Yeah.
You can ask us for whatever information you want. You have an NDA, go crazy. And then, so what's really cool about that is they would come back and you could see, like how they thought about the world, like what their vision was. But the second best part of it is like when you're in there and say someone's doing it on, the growth strategy, you can actually get down like a layer deeper or 2 layers deeper and be like, okay, you talk about growing the list 100,000 people a month. Like what are the tactics and strategies to do that? And I think when you're in there, you can see the people that really like it. Like not only do they have the expertise, but you can see them light up when they're talking about it. So we basically create this environment where
or they start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Mike talking about Nickelback, remember? That was me talking about Nickelback. So you'll get that's going to keep coming back. But yeah, I think it's just you can like kind of feel their passion and like are they really engaged in it?
Yeah.
So we try to create these environments like where you can put them in the work that they're going to be doing when they join your team. And then ask them questions and like see how they react. And that's kind of like a really awesome way to do it. And so we do the same thing, but like not if it's, not like a board deck, but it's like, hey, our product person, like show us what your product vision is for the next 90 days.
Yeah.
Our new writer who's going to do our sports section, show us what would you talk about? Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going to do a weekly newsletter for us.
Present the job a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then like you can see like our we just hired Kevin to do our new product in sports and entertainment culture. And he's like talking about Burning Man at Coachella, and he's like, I love it because you could just like see the passion.
Right.
So you're basically like providing this opportunity for them to like.
So he still remembers Burning Man. I mean, most people don't remember. So
let me flash back a second on that, because right now you're talking about a curiosity newsletter. I mean, I'm not saying it's always easy to be interested or passionate, but that's like quite fascinating stuff. years ago, you were buying, plumbing services companies in the middle of Alabama.
Yeah.
How did you assess the same criteria with the folks in that world?
In the private equity world?
Yeah, like you were assessing, like I think you just mentioned, maybe if you're replacing a CEO or you're hiring an executive, you're in a fascinating space right now that a lot of people would be interested in.
Yeah.
I love sports and Burning Man or whatever.
Yeah.
Plumbing services companies. I mean, some people might be interested, but some people, they're finding different passion.
Yeah. I think, I think at the time I was like in learning mode, right? Because it was like my bosses that were doing that and I was like learning. But I think even if I think back at that, so there was like, the CEO we dropped in Alabama was in Dennis. And I actually still look up to him to this day. And actually there's some times where I'm in a moment where I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do as a CEO and I call him. Yeah. Or I think like, what would Dennis do in this situation?
Need that mentor.
Yeah. And actually there's some CEOs who are really terrible that I worked with. And I'm like, just like, that's what this guy would have done. I'm going to name his name and Dennis would have done. And he was like, I think one of the things I learned from him was he was just like a wonderful people person. So you had 300 employees in this company and like, people picking, supply chain parts like off. Yeah. And they have huge things. And like, I remember his first day on the job, the old CEO had it's like out of a movie, right? Like the first parking spot had his name on it. It was like reserved for CEO XYZ. Yeah. And I remember like he came in the first day and he took that sign down and he parked the farthest away from the parking lot and then walked in. And it was just like, I am here for you. Yeah, this is how I care about you. And like every morning he would walk the floor and talk to people and build relationships with them, right? Like he cared deeply about his company. Yeah. And you can feel that. And like, I think,
so did Dennis find his passion in plumbing services, if that was the company, or in this?
Exactly. I think he was a professional CEO and like he loved the turnaround and like
came from a different industry.
Correct. Yeah. So we drop him into different places. So he was just a professional people, like he had a bad culture and like the ship was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
He's the guy that turns it around for you. Yeah.
But you can't underestimate the people and relationships. I mean, I've worked with the same people over and over again because you build the relationships, you get to know them. But then they want to come back and work for you or with you, right? Because they're like, oh, I trust them. There's something, something here. But you cannot underestimate building relationships with the people in the organization. 22 people, they're remote, it sounds like.
Yep.
How do you build those relationships?
Yeah. So I will say, like, so we were already remote before COVID and we leaned into it after COVID.
Of course.
There's a lot of advantages to it. So like the first one is like your talent TAM or total addressable market, like, is what 3% of people live in Chicago and now you have 100% of people. So it's like allows us to like have a huge talent TAM. And then we get a lot of people that are like, in their 30s have been very successful in their careers, but have like 2 or 3 kids at home and want to like go, work really hard from 9 to 5, and then have boundaries and go home and not be commuting to an office every day. So it allows us to hire like a very specific type of person, which we think is like a growing part of the workforce. That the one part that stinks about it is like every time we get together, I'm like, oh, this is so magical that like together. And it's like we have to all get on flights and go home.
Did you ever realize that if you got together every day, it wouldn't be?
Exactly.
It seriously wouldn't be.
Right. Yeah. I do wish we had a little bit more of the serendipitous moments where you're like walking down the office and you might be like thinking about something and talking to someone. I do think a lot of those are now have to be Zoom calls and like scheduled and thought through. And you miss that like, hey, what about this thing? And like just the laughing that happens at lunch.
How often is the get on a flight thing happening? Is that quarterly or?
So we do 2 massive company. Well, we do a company offsite in February with all the employees for about a week. And then we do a summer one where actually we invite significant others to join as well to build a community.
That's big.
Yeah. So like we did the Bahamas in February.
Profitable company, folks. Profitable.
We don't have offices too. So we are right. And then we're going to, I think, Santa Barbara for this summer. We got like Nantucket and some really cool places.
Wow. Are you hiring now?
This is what I'm trying to do. That's right. Trying to get all the talent in.
Serendipity thing is so interesting. Last company I ran, I remember, we were having people in the office, after COVID, right? Trying to come in once a week. People weren't doing it. So we started mandating 1 or 2 days a month. And I'm walking through the sales team and I hear him talking about messaging around one of our products and they were off. Yeah. And I was like, oh no, we got to get these, these folks aligned and we got to get the right person over here and so on. And I'm thinking, I'm really happy I figured that out. But like, what else am I not seeing? Because I'm not walking around among the people, but there's also, they weren't going to come in more than 1 or 2 days a month, right? It just wasn't going to happen. So it's a real hard balance now because you can't Zoom serendipity.
Correct.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting because everybody who comes on the show has a viewpoint on the remote versus.
Yes.
The one thing that's certain is everybody's passionate about what side they're on, no matter what. Like, it's fairly strongly passionate about this way, and I don't know the answer. I've been on both sides.
Yeah. So we try to do more get-togethers as we've gotten bigger. So like we have the two big company offsites, and then we do like smaller, like the sales team gets together every couple months. The product team, and then we actually start doing these like we call them like hometowns. Bachelor or something like that.
Yeah, it's really, bachelor, bachelorette. Yes, yeah. I have 3 daughters. I know all this stuff.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah,
that's it. I didn't watch Golden Bachelor. No.
But yeah, everyone lives in like a pretty cool city. It's like Austin and Boston and Charlotte, Chicago, and New Orleans and everything. So it's like, how do we build some community like where people?
That's cool. People too. So that's very cool.
Try to do that as well.
It's not like, hey, just take your Zoom camera around your house. I mean, I was actually ready to know where you are.
I fly in too. So your favorite restaurant?
Yeah, I know. I did that. That was one of my executive Zoom things during COVID. Right? Turn your camera around. I want to see. I wanted to be. You're looking at. What are you looking at?
What's the closet look like?
Yeah. By the way, people refused to. A lot of people wouldn't do it.
Oh, really?
They were just like, I'm like, what are you looking at that we shouldn't see? But anyway.
But yes, we try to do the offsites, and then try to have boundaries where we work really hard from 9 to 5, and then people we never talk on the weekends and trying to keep it down after work, because we just want people that are really good at their jobs and can go home and be parents or whatever they do at home, and then we want to pay people well above market. We want everyone in our company to have equity. I learned that in private equity. I think it's the right thing to do. And then also it's gets people aligned because we're all looking for a bigger vision.
So now on the equity side, are you doing it in a way that you're paying a dividend or anything, or is it equity upon an exit?
So we just started in the last year being we're profitable. So
that's why.
Yeah.
So we are doing some dividends. Okay. So then, but therefore they get a bonus right there.
Exactly.
We succeed now. It's not the promise of 10 years down the line.
Correct.
It's a better way to do it, honestly. I didn't have the ability to do it that way, but equity comp is so tricky because it's this promise that might happen 10 years later.
Right.
And also you don't know if you're, just sample numbers, your 10 shares out of 100 are going to be 10 shares out of 1,000 by the time that happens. That's such a weird, tricky way to incentivize. So if you can do it where the reward is actually received before 10 years, it seems like a better way to incentivize.
And talk about treating employees like royalty. That's royalty.
Yeah.
Here's money.
Yeah. And the benefits too. We literally tried the best benefits in the world. We just did a body scan. You guys seen that company Pre-Nuvo?
Yes.
So it's really cool. They look for aneurysms faster in you. So now you and your significant other can go in and do one of those and proactively look for. Because also, so we care about people, of course. That's why we're doing it. But also it's really good business too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this gets lost. People think that, if you do that, it's not hippie stuff. But they're not thinking about the bottom line. I actually think it's the opposite. If you invest deeply in your employees and you have a 100% employee retention rate and you attract the best talent in the world and you treat them really nicely, you get that back in droves. And then if everyone's part of that, we're all getting that back in droves, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, especially in media too, they just treat a lot of people like trash. And we're trying to be literally the best place in the world to go work. And people want to hear about us and come here. So I think it's a huge, it's a way to, it's a huge advantage of ours.
All right. So wrapping up, what's under the hood? What can we expect from 1440 in the next, either it's few months or few years? Where are you going?
Nice. Doubling staff.
Yeah. So we'll hire both of us.
I see the bottom.
Or else I could afford you to. But, so we have, let's see. Okay, so we have our core product, 4.5 million people. And we've been incredibly disciplined at saying no to things. So basically all these smaller newsletters have come around. And basically, if you look at our space, a lot of folks
like the Momentum Mode newsletter.
Yeah, right.
That's world class. That's what we got. Yeah. I always want a world class product. But we've seen a lot of folks in our space that basically do these smaller tangential products and they don't work. And then they fire everyone and that thing. And going back to the talent thing, we don't layoffs on our vocabulary. The whole hire 100 people, fire them. You don't want to do that. That said, we've only done our one product up until about a year ago.
Yeah.
We're now launching the second product. One of our principles is swing for the fences, and that's what we're trying to do here. So we'll see if it works. But what we're trying to do is basically what we hear from our readers over and over again is when they're reading the news, they see things like the gut microbiome, CRISPR, inflation, Burning Man, Chicago, all these things they want to learn about. And what they do is they tell us they go to a search engine, they type it in, and you get that SEO clickbait layer of the internet.
Absolutely.
and they might watch a video on social media and you're like, is this real? Like, why should I be watching?
Right.
Sifting through all this stuff. Again, like a doctor with three kids.
They want you to take them further.
Exactly. Yeah. Just help them on their knowledge journey. Like, these are all gas people. So what we're trying to do is basically, that's what you hear from the readers over and over again. Is like, I want to learn, but it's really hard and it's inefficient. And then because we're like curators, like we're seeing all these wonderful resources. So basically, like, if you want to learn about CRISPR, like Drew, our scientist, knows that there's a 12-minute 101 video from MIT on CRISPR that if you want to learn about, it's the single best place to learn. No one can find it. It's buried so deep on the internet.
Okay.
So we're trying to be essentially like the connective tissue. Like, you have intellectually curious knowledge seekers and all the best content in the world and just kind of put them together. So we're building this. We used to call it Pinterest for knowledge, but that's not totally fair anymore. But it's kind of like if Pinterest, Reddit, and Wikipedia had a baby.
Yeah.
And like, so if you want to learn about inflation,
Yep.
sorry, want to learn about inflation, you go on there and it's like, all right, here's a couple hundred words describing it, summarizing it, which is what we're really good at. And then here's Fed Chairman Powell talking about the effects of inflation on the economy on a 20-minute podcast. And then here's like how the printing, like the
Awesome.
like all these awesome things that are right there. So if you want to learn, you're still choosing your own adventure, kind of like Reddit style.
Yep.
But everything in there has been fact checked by a human and is like worthy of your time.
Yep.
So we're trying to do that. And that's like our big swing. We launched it in October. And we've basically we've 3 verticals. We've done business and finance, sports, entertainment, culture, and science and tech. Just
include Bitcoin in business and finance.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. We just covered Ethereum. Okay, we got that. Yeah, this is exactly the topic in finance area. People say, tell me more.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't.
Yeah. But they like a basic confusing and you don't know where to go.
That's right.
And then either shifts.
I love
the true only things.
clickbait wrapper to the internet. Love that term. I'm stealing that one.
So nice. Yeah. So that's our big swing. And we're really excited to see what happens.
Sweet. Tim, thanks for joining us. Actually, that's all our time for today, but 1440, look out for him.
Cool. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes, cool. Thank you.